Have you ever wondered why you need to bring in thyroid optimization, how growth hormone secretagogues work, what is the benefits of NAD, methylene blue, rapamycin? All these things can improve health and longevity. Then you're going to want to stay tuned to see what Justin Groce has to say about these. Today's guest is Justin Groce. Justin Groce helped introduce me to this world of hormone optimization. His voice was who I listened to first with my first men's health course. I've listened to his thyroid course, his peptide and longevity courses. I've seen him speak at the Silverback Summit, which is a conference to help optimize men, and also the Elite NP conference, where he was a speaker talking about testosterone amongst other NPs that have excelled in their field as well. So he provides a ton of knowledge and has helped set a lot of the foundations for my knowledge on hormone optimization. So anybody interested in overall hormones, thyroid, longevity, these are all things we talk about today. He presents these topics in a very easy, digestible way that is entertaining to watch. I came across your stuff. You're actually probably one of the first people I listened to in the space of anything in terms of...
Well, thank you, man. I appreciate that, man.
Testosterone, thyroid, peptides. Your courses were kind of the intro before I even had anything on my own, and so kind of helped me even think about wanting to do this. So I wanted to start just kind of getting to know your background a little bit. Like, what's your origin story? Do you have a traditional nurse practitioner job, or how did you find kind of this space of hormones and wellness?
So I started off originally as believe it or not, as a personal trainer, and I started that in my early 20s. And I did that for about 8-9 years, and then I got to the point where I was like, you know what, there's only so much I can do, because I was focusing mainly working with men, men who want to make a completely revamped lifestyle change, whether they were professional athletes, whether they're musicians, because we live in the Nashville area, or I did at that time, or just regular folks like us, man. But I saw that there was a limitation in how much I could do. So I went the non-traditional route. I went to a nurse practitioner program at Vanderbilt that allowed people who come from non-traditional routes to enter a nurse practitioner program. But having a degree in exercise physiology, background, strength and conditioning, nutrition, for me, it was an easy segue. I had all the prerequisites already knocked out. So I matriculated into the Vanderbilt program, did that, and then I did internal medicine, primary care, the route most people do for the first few years. But it's not what I'm passionate about. What I'm passionate about is working with men, helping men optimize their health, whether it's through nutrition counseling, whether it's through strength and conditioning, coaching, hormone optimization, or just general bro advice. Sometimes I've got guys who just make appointments with us, and all we do is shoot the shit and talk about bro advice. So my trajectory is a little bit more non-traditional than most folks. But long story short, if I had to wrap it up in 15 seconds, I'd say I started off as a trainer. I specialize working with men, and I want to bridge that gap between fitness, health, nutrition, into medicine, and I integrated that by becoming a nurse practitioner.
Awesome. We'll definitely talk about testosterone and the other hormones and everything, but I kind of wanted to touch on a topic that I have several patients on and that it comes up and is kind of just like the longevity scene, which can include growth hormone secretagogues, NAD, rapamycin, methylene blue, that kind of stuff. So kind of start with the growth hormone secretagogues. I think they shine the most in terms of muscle recovery and sleep. But
Sure.
What type of patient or person are you bringing these on, and what benefits have you seen out of them?
Patients that I tend to prescribe them for, let's say we got them on testosterone. They're doing great on testosterone. For the most part, they're dialed in. Life's great. They feel great. Libido's great. No brain fog, energy, performance, all across the board. They feel great. But they kind of want to get a little extra edge. I kind of like to look at it as a pie chart. So if you have a pie chart, let's say 95% of that pie chart is diet, nutrition, sleep, pulling the big levers to health optimization, and that includes the hormones as well. But if they want to get that next little level, like they're really trying to dial in sleep augmentation, or they're trying to reduce body fat but mitigate as much muscle loss as possible, yeah, I think growth hormone secretagogues are great in that regard. Or if you have that person who really needs to start mobilizing more visceral body fat, we're talking about the fatty liver disease, we're talking about the mental fat. The growth hormone secretagogues really shine in that regard, whether it's Sermorelin, whether it's Tesamorelin, whether it's CJC 1295. They can all mobilize visceral fat quite well. They can all help you recover faster. Let's say we've got somebody who, I hate to say this, but quote unquote, they're getting ready for beach season and they want to ramp up their training. Them and their trainer are going to dial up their training. They're going to dial back their calories, and they're going to increase the volume and intensity and load. That does take a toll on your joints, whether you're on TRT or not. It's going to have a cumulative effect on the way your body, you just run more miles on your body's going to feel it. The growth hormone secretagogues can really help you get from this level to increasing the intensity and training load, increasing the volume, and it can help the recovery as well. That's one of the biggest things it shines with. So mobilizing visceral fat, helping with recovery, helping muscle retention, especially during weight loss periods. I think they all three work great. And to be honest, you could probably put someone on any of them and still get a good result, assuming they've pulled all the big levers and then sprinkled this on top of that.
Yeah. And they seem very safe. Tesamorelin's FDA approved for HIV patients. The kind of always fear in the back of everything, if we're improving growth hormone, then we have a, potential to worsen growth hormone dependent cancers if we don't know about them. But then I've also seen some literature that better growth hormone levels may be cancer protective. Do you have any insight on the cancer relation to improving growth hormone with these, or do these even make a difference since it's not straight exogenous growth hormone? So
we know that all these can increase IGF-1, the downstream metabolic biomarker, the metabolic hormone produced from the liver. Because, that's what growth hormone does. It comes from the pituitary, tells the liver to make IGF-1, boom, boom, and that's where a lot of the benefits come from, is that IGF-1 production. But if these were to cause cancer, then wouldn't TRT cause cancer too? Because TRT in of itself increases GH and therefore IGF-1 production, with the biggest lever puller of that being the estradiol that comes from the TRT. Even introducing thyroid hormone replacement can increase IGF-1 and GH production, so can TRT. So, if you were to say that exogenous GH secretagogues were to cause cancer, but when we also presume that testosterone replacement or estradiol replacement or HRT, that matter, would actually cause cancer itself. But that's not what we're seeing. No, like you said, we're saying a lot of these hormones can confer benefit and protection against cancer, because a lot of cancers come from genetics. It comes from metabolic abnormalities, comes from degenerative diseases associated with mitochondrial dysfunction. So again, and sometimes cancers we just don't know. And sometimes it's idiopathic. Whether you're on TRT, whether you're not, whether you're on GH, whether you're not, sometimes that's the hand God dealt you, and we can't predict that, man. Sometimes that's life, and I hate to say that, but if we were to say that taking GH secretagogues inherently causes that, we would probably have to say that TRT would cause that too. At least that would be my speculation. That'd be my interpretation of it.
Yeah, NAD has grown in popularity, and we use it. I kind of got the idea initially from the IV clinics using it in IVs, but I didn't like the time it takes and the cost I would have to charge for them to hang out with us. So we just started doing sub-Q injections, and man, they're killer. Do y'all have any NAD experience in y'all's clinic?
Yeah, man, I took mine this morning. I do mine a couple times a week, 25 to 50 milligrams sub-Q. Gives me a nice little pep, man. I feel good, feel even keel, steady throughout the week. I'm right there with you, though. Inherently, the gold standard historically has been through an IV, but that is very time-consuming, as you said. It's logistically not feasible for a lot of people to sit there, 1 to 2 hours and spend a couple $100. It works great, but if they can't do that, sure, let's do it in injectables, man. Injectables are great. They're portable. Patients can take it with them. You have it shipped to their house, and it works. It works great.
Oh, no, that's good. So, I started it myself, and, there was a time where I was being consistent with it, and, man, I have my best 5K time on NAD. Was I training great and kind of hit the nutrition right, or was it that I added NAD? I don't know for sure, but I still can't beat it. That was 6-7 months ago. And so it's just, I think that kind of shows a little bit that it does kind of improve overall mitochondrial function and health, in terms of oxygenation and everything. So, yeah, it's been pretty awesome for what we've seen anecdotally with it.
Yeah. What'd you hit?
2730. So not anything super amazing, but
it's for you, man. It's your peak. Who cares? It's great.
Exactly.
For you, man.
For me, awesome. I'm super pumped. If I can, all I try and do is break 30 every time I do a 5K. And so getting it was like at the time 90 seconds faster. So I was like, I don't know what it was about that day, but it was good.
So there you go. You already got one leg up on me, man.
Yeah. In terms of literature, like I see some old addiction studies on it, and then it seemed kind of to fade away. It seemed like it came back, like in Mexico in these longevity stuff, and then it came over here, so I kind of tell people I don't have long-term safety studies to tell you that it's safe to take for 30 years, but it seems to be just basically a B vitamin derivative, and so I'm kind of viewing it as more of a supplement more than a medication. What you're taking the safety of it.
I'm the same as you, man. It's a metabolite of a B vitamin, essentially, is what it is. There are more pharmacy companies hopping on board with it now, like what was it, NMN, nicotinic mononucleotide. You used to be able to get that over the counter. Now it's being investigated as a drug, and I don't think a pharmaceutical company would want to hop on that and patent it if they thought it was going to cause problems. No, I think they want to hop on it because they know how efficacious it can be in terms of improving people's metabolic health, improving their overall just energy production, their ATP production, their mitochondrial health, in mitigating even just longevity or age-related diseases like glaucoma and sarcopenia, and osteoporosis. I'm of the camp that I believe that there's a reason why pharmaceutical companies want to patent this stuff, even though just a few years ago, you can get it over the counter because they know just how beneficial it can be. I mean, essentially, for anyone that doesn't know, NAD is essentially cellular currency. I like to look at it as like currency for your cells, and your mitochondria tap into this. It's like a nice pool of energy. And what do mitochondria do? They're like these little bitty engines. Every cell, or almost every cell of your body has these little bitty engines, and they're like little combustion engines. And what do? They produce energy, and that energy tells the cell to keep doing its thing. And what is the gasoline that it runs off? Well, NAD helps prime that so that these little engines can make ATP. And ATP is the energy that our body uses for whatever cellular functions we have, whatever metabolic processes. And by the time you're 40, about 50% of that NAD is gone. Age-related declines. Housekeeping enzymes eat them up too, like sirtuins and NADases and tankerases. Those are different enzymes that run various biological functions in your body. But mitochondria need this to make energy. These little engines that keeps our entire body running from the cellular level up. And when those decline, all the age-related problems start happening. And yeah, like my vision's pretty bad. Was it because of that? I don't know. Maybe, but we know glaucoma is partially related to that. We know muscle wasting syndromes is partially related to that. We know the accretion of visceral fat is related to that as well.
I like it. Keep going. I'm on board the whole time. Do you do, so NAD injection seems to be the best, but NMR and NR seem to be okay orally as a precursor. Do you do any of those or just kind of skip to the end product?
Man, if you can go straight to the injectables, cool, because that's like, here's this. Then you got NR, which is a step up. Then you got NMN, which is another step up. And then you could take stuff like niacinamide, which is way up here. I mean, but the higher up the ladder you go, the longer it takes to actually get therapeutic levels. And you also have to assume that your body's biological environment is conducive of going from here to here to here to here to making that final end product. There's no way that I know that you can test people for efficacy or for conversion. I don't know of any testing for that. So I believe if you can go straight to the source, go for it. Because one thing that people don't realize is that you got NMN that converts to NR and that converts to NAD. Increased oxidative stress can actually inhibit. It can put a roadblock right there, preventing that conversion from here to here. So as we get older, we already know we got increased oxidative stress. We got more free radicals just nabbing up electrons from healthy tissue, from lipids, from proteins, from DNAs. And that increased production of reactive oxygen species can block that conversion to NAD. So I believe if you're getting older, we accrue oxidative stress just existing. Heck, even like I said, mitochondria, like these little bitty engines. But they like, think of little sparks that come off those engines. Those are like electrons, unpaired electrons. Those little sparks are like reactive oxygen species, and those little sparks can bind healthy tissue throughout the body. So yes, while our mitochondria are essential to keep our body running, they do produce reactive oxygen species, which are unpaired electrons. And the accumulation that occurs as we get older is just a biological process. I mean, long story short, the more oxidative stress you have, the more inhibition you have to conversion to NAD. So therefore, if you can get straight to the product, man, go for it.
I like the combustion engine analogy with it.
It makes sense. I just tell the patients. They kind of get it.
Yeah, it helps break it down to an actual vision that you can see. Methylene blue. I mean, that's kind of I have probably the least amount of anecdotal experience with that with, patients and stuff. It does seem pretty awesome for a nootropic. And are y'all using it? Do you see any benefits with it?
Yeah, we have some patients on it. One of the biggest benefits of methylene blue is that it acts like an acetylcholinesterase inhibitor. Acetylcholine esterase is an enzyme, and so it can deplete your acetylcholine levels. Acetylcholine is a neurotransmitter involved in maintaining cognitive function. So degenerative diseases like dementia, Alzheimer's, a lot of that is characterized by having a depletion of acetylcholine. And when you lose that neurotransmitter, your cognitive function declines. Methylene blue inhibits the enzyme that breaks down that neurotransmitter, so thus your neurotransmitter pools stay higher. And therefore, it helps prevent cognitive decline. That's one of the biggest benefits of it. It also can improve your mood because it acts kind of sort of like an MAO inhibitor. So, I mean, monoamine oxidase is an enzyme that breaks down neurotransmitters, norepinephrine, that are responsible for good mood. So not only are we maintaining healthy neurotransmitters that are responsible for cognitive function and preventing cognitive decline so that we can stay mentally sharp long as possible, because let's be real, if there's one thing I fear, actually maybe I shouldn't fear it, because if I'm cognitively declined, I guess I don't know it. It's everyone else's problem at that point. I don't want to lose it. That's how I look at it. I'm like, I just shit myself. I don't know. You got to clean it. Yeah. Anyway. That's just kind of my thought. It keeps you sharper, man, and it can help with mood. So one of the contraindications, though, it does act like a monoamine oxidase inhibitor. So be careful, be iffy if you got somebody on a psychotropic medication, you got them on SSRIs, because that can lead to serotonin syndrome. I've never seen it because I use small doses. I've heard people using doses 40, 50 milligrams. I stay more in the 5, 10, 15 milligram range because I've just seen it. I'm just one of those people who thinks if you can get away with less is more.
Yeah, and it's nice that, people know that it works because it turns their urine green. So, they see that take something and, you typically feel better on it. But just if there's another objective sign that it's working, it kind of helps patients as well. And then the last kind of in the longevity space I want to talk about or just even bring up is rapamycin, just because it's, I don't know, like Peter Attia and, all those guys are throwing it around. And it's one of those, in this longevity space, it's hard to see actual protocols because everybody's just kind of guessing. And then we don't have good human studies to show, but it does seem to be the highest potential of anything right now. Do y'all use it? Do y'all have anybody that does kind of longevity stuff in y'all's clinic or anything like that?
Yeah, we use it in some patients. It's more of one of those really niche things because most people, let's be real, they probably come to you, they would come to us, all they care about is testosterone. They don't care if their thyroid sucks, which, we'll address it. But most people, when they come to us, they want testosterone replacement. But rapamycin was actually discovered from Easter Island. The scientists were studying there. They're trying to find out, how can people live here barefoot but not ever develop tetanus? Lo and behold, they discovered a bacteria called Streptococcus. Anyway, it lived in the environment, and it produced its own antifungals, its own antibacterials, its own antiviral properties. So they took this bacteria back. Well, they never found out, why they don't get tetanus, but they did discover this bacteria. And the chemical compound it makes, they actually named it rapamycin, which comes from the word rapanu, which, if I'm not mistaken, translates to Easter Island. It pays homage to Easter Island is what it does. It's a potent anti-inflammatory. Essentially, if you have any cells that are aging, which we like to call it geroconversion, when a healthy cell slowly declines and becomes a non-functional cell, it kind of inhibits that. It kind of puts up a roadblock in that conversion space. So you got healthy cells that function, they slowly decline, they undergo a process called geroconversion, then they become poor performing. Rapamycin essentially wipes the slate clean of that process. So when people implement it, what they typically do is they'll once a week, a couple milligrams once a week. I've seen some literature that shows that one little cycle of it, whether you do a couple weeks of it, can still wipe the slate clean of those geroconverting cells, those senescent cells. It can wipe the slate clean for upwards of several months. So I've seen protocols where you can just do it a couple times a year. We'll just do 2 weeks on every 4 months, and it can still have some efficacy. Another thing about it, it's a great anti-inflammatory, and it actually acts kind of sort of like a little thrombolytic. So there's some studies that show that merely being on it can actually prevent or even slow down the progression of atherosclerosis due to the fact that it has very good thrombolytic properties. So yes, it can help in terms of wiping the slate clean of these old converting cells, these slowly senescent cells, but it also can have other properties that can help, quote unquote, longevity, particularly in the cardiovascular space.
Yeah, it's traditionally used as, in transplants as an immunosuppressant, and they monitor sirolimus levels or anything. It's such a small dose that you're not monitoring sirolimus levels or anything along those lines, right?
No, I've seen most of the studies I've seen, most of the protocols I've seen are 2, 3, 4 milligrams. You take that once or twice a week. I've seen it like 2 days on, 5 days off. And as you said, it's such a small niche area. There's not like a well-defined protocol per se. So again, I'm more of the less is more. If you can take it, every Monday, once a week for 3-4 weeks and just kind of pump the brakes for a few months. If you can get away with a little bit, by all means. That's just kind of my philosophy towards it.
And the worst, side effects, just kind of mouth sores, and it is immunosuppressant, but it's not, when these kind of essentially, microdoses, is not too worrisome from getting infections and that kind of stuff, right?
No, I'm not worried about people getting sick or having ill effects, because we're using this in otherwise healthy people. We're not using people who already have a compromised immune system. We're not using people that have a transplant. We're using people who are otherwise healthy, who are just saying, hey, I just want to prevent having any kind of age-related decline. I want to keep my cells as healthy as possible. I want to get rid of all the gunk, essentially. So it's not something I would even worry about. Heck, even you're taking 2 doses a week, it's such a small dose in healthy people.
Yeah. So I do want to switch to kind of hormones now. Lifestyle optimization, hormone optimization, and these are kind of little
right on
adjuncts that we get at times, and I've done a couple videos on them, but anytime it's from somebody else from me, I think it helps stick, just hearing things multiple ways for patients.
Yeah, people like hearing opinions, like seeing different perspectives on stuff.
So I do want to switch to thyroid. Thyroid is another one that, they typically are coming for testosterone. And I'll talk about thyroid, and it's kind of easily brushed off. It's, it's not near as sexy as talking about testosterone. But it is a pretty heavy hitter in terms of just energy, mood, just overall health. I would rather use thyroid optimization to lower cholesterol than cholesterol meds. When are you all bringing it into hormone optimization for your clientele and everything?
Pretty much anybody who's a new patient. Let's pretend let's do a scenario. You're a new patient, you present to us.
Okay.
We're going to evaluate your thyroid in conjunction with your testosterone levels. Because, I don't want to mask and treat one thing that could have easily been the opposing thing. If your thyroid's underfunctioning and that comes concurrently with low testosterone, there's a good chance that treating the thyroid would increase the testosterone production, because a lot of times FSH-LH underproduction can sometimes be piggybacked to underproduction of the thyroid. You wouldn't otherwise know that if you don't concurrently evaluate the patient for both, hypothyroidism as well as hypogonadism. Any brand new patient, we will pull a thyroid panel and evaluate that to make sure they're not having any concurrent thyroid problems or something secondary due to an underactive thyroid.
In returns to thyroid evaluation and monitoring, you have one, the traditional primary care route just bases everything off of the TSH, and then kind of the functional guys will throw in all kinds of stuff. From what I see and monitor, free T3 can help guide me a lot in terms of symptom resolution, but are you pulling total T3, total T4, reverse T3, any of these other tests to help monitor and guide your treatment with thyroid as well?
Big ones I pulled are the antibodies. I want to know if you have Hashimoto's or not, because that right there opens up a whole nother can. Because not only are you dealing with a thyroid disease, you're also dealing with an autoimmune disease. You kind of have to appropriately treat that with a more targeted approach. TSH, obviously. So as you mentioned, traditionally, how we were trained, you and I were trained, or just medical practitioners in general, was just pull a TSH and then treat according based on that. I'm evaluating for someone with low T, I just pull an LH. And then I prescribe testosterone based on just the LH, not the testosterone, which doesn't make sense as a tropic, but that's kind of how we were trying to treat the tropic, not the actual hormone itself. So, but I do pull a TSH, at least initially, TPO, antibodies, free T3, free T4. I don't really pull all the other stuff because I feel like I can get my bread and butter and getting the meat of things just using the essentials. And I treat based on those right there.
Yeah, and that's kind of where we've been going, is just, free T3 and symptoms. Truly, we're largely symptom driven, titrate to symptom resolution. But I think free T3 has been the biggest, in guiding that. So that's kind of what we go alongside it. Once you're treating it, again, kind of the traditional route is just to do levothyroxine, T4. But we switch a lot of people off of that to desiccated thyroid, T3, T4, that's micro amounts of T1 and T2 as well. But is that what y'all are doing, or how do you all treat it once y'all are managing it?
We've treated pretty much any combination you can think of. We've done T3, T4, we've done T3 by itself, we've done NDTs, whether it's Anthiza or NP or Armor. We've done those by itself. We've done those with T3, we've done those with T4, we've done this whatever customization is needed to get the job done, you can pretty much think that we've done it. And it may sound a little crazy, but sometimes they need that little extra. Sometimes they need a little extra T3 on top of it, maybe whether it's 5 or 10, or sometimes they need just NP, just 60, whatever.
When do you do just T3 alone? Like, how are you doing that in your treatment for them?
Those patients are very rare, but let's say we've whittled it down, like we've tried an NP, let's say we tried a compound, T3, T4 combination, custom dose, they can't tolerate. And then if you get to the end, you're like, all right, let's rule out it's the T4 that you're not really tolerating, whether it's a genetic mutation or whatever, or whether it's just an intolerance to the drug itself or the hormone itself. That's how we get it. So, those are one of those end of the funnel type people is what they are. They're very rare outliers is what they are.
Do you do BID dosing or twice day dosing for desiccated thyroid or anything if they're needing a little extra? You ever find any benefit?
I've got a couple. Let's say you come to us, we're like, oh, okay, we got a game plan, we're going to whatever. And you say, look, man, it's working, I feel good. I feel like that might be a little too much in one dose, but it's working. Then I might say, okay, cool, let's meet in the middle. Why don't we just divvy that up throughout the day and see how you like that? Maybe that'll give you more stable levels. Maybe you won't feel like it's hitting you too much at once, or maybe you will feel like it's not tapering off at the end of the day. And so we may meet in the middle and say, all right, cool, let's just split it up and see how you like that. And if that keeps you steadier and you feel more even keel throughout the day, cool. A joint partnership more than anything is what it is.
And symptoms guiding and helping feel. In terms of micronutrient optimization as well, kind of seeing selenium, vitamin D, magnesium, is that kind of just standard with your thyroid? Are you bringing those on anytime specifically in thyroid treatment with these guys as well?
Very rarely do I have to, because a lot of the people I work with are very diligent. So if we talk about improving their nutrition, improving their lifestyle, and all the big levers surrounding the hormone replacement that can really augment the hormone replacement. But one thing interesting I find, though, a lot of people are vitamin D deficient, man. Dude, we've got a couple dozen patients who live in Florida, and they're like, what the hell, dude? Why are you vitamin? You've got the beach here. You have no excuse, but genetically, some people just don't produce it. It's a hormone. It is. It's a hormone. And just like any other hormone, sometimes you just don't synthesize it. You may give it the great environment. You may exercise. You may get good, wonderful sun exposure. You may get great sleep, but sometimes it is what it is. We don't know why, and it's unfortunate, but you will be on it lifelong. That's interesting you mentioned that, because vitamin D deficiency is incredibly common, but it's weird because insurance doesn't want to pull the blood work for it. You know what I mean? Across the board, they made a statement that they don't want to even address vitamin D deficiencies anymore.
Yeah, which is crazy. And even just not even getting to normal levels, but I typically shoot for the upper end, 60 to 100 or so.
Sure, yeah.
For good symptom resolution in a lot of these guys and gals, and so I think it does good. With the Hashimoto's patients, low-dose naltrexone, do you ever bring that in for them?
If there's, seriously, dude, and I hate to sound hyperbolic right here, but if there's one godsend drug that really treats a lot of shit, seriously, Lyme disease, rheumatoid arthritis, Hashimoto's disease, chronic pain, assuming the patient's not on concurrent opioids, right. Inflammatory bowel diseases, ulcerative colitis, Crohn's disease, whatever. If you got an autoimmune disease, if you have a chronic inflammatory disease, try LDN. What's the harm? Seriously,
exactly.
Seriously, integrative cancer therapies is seriously one of the best immune augmenting drugs, because it stimulates the production of opioid growth factors, stimulates the production of enkephalins, and stimulates the production of beta endorphins. And those are all different chemicals that are going to reduce pain. It's going to increase your immune system's production and stimulate your immune system as well. Seriously, again, I don't want to sound hyperbolic, but if there's one medication that people could truly, truly benefit from, it would probably be LDN.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. It's such a cool med just bind it, and it has to be those specific low doses. You can't just throw 50 at them like the traditional,
Sure.
alcohol or opiate weaning. It's those little micro doses to just, touch that receptor so that it's like kind of overstimulated, right? Or what's the mechanism for just those microdosing of those receptors?
Sure. So like when you introduce a low dose, essentially it's going to bind the opioid growth factor receptors. So pretend we got receptors here. It's going to bind them, and whatever was bound here loses its spot. So you're going to upregulate new receptors. Get displaced, make a new receptor, bind, displace, make a new receptor. And with each concurrent cyclical fashion of that, it's going to stimulate increased productions of opioid growth factor, enkephalins, and beta endorphins. If you give a big dose, like a blanket dose, all the receptors get saturated, so there's not this displacement and upregulation. Instead, you just saturate and flatline all the receptors. And that's why you have to keep a baby dose. We're talking like, I've seen upwards of 6 milligrams, 7, but the classic gold standard is work up to 4 to 5 and kind of just cruise there indefinitely. One caveat about the drug, I said it's an amazing drug. It's wonderful, but it takes time. Super patient with it. And insomnia is pretty common because you take it in the evening, so you're going to get the best upregulation of those chemical messengers. But if you are having insomnia, I tell people just tough it out. 2 to 3 weeks of insomnia. If you can tough out fibromyalgia for the last 10 years, you can tough this out for the next 2 weeks. 4 to 6 months is when you're finally going to start probably getting something. At least clinically, that's what most patients have told us. It's probably about 6-ish months before they notice something. Reassure them it's working in the background. It just takes time to work. It's not something you take in 2 weeks, you feel great. Unfortunately, it's not.
Yeah, and whenever I just was starting using, I was getting impatient myself as, the practitioner because I didn't quite know. And it just takes a while to titrate up. I was starting at 0.5
Oh, yeah.
and, just going up. And then, so it does just take time. And so I've learned to set that expectations kind of front that it does take some time for all this to work, but we have seen good results.
What have you used it in, if you don't mind me asking?
Chronic pain, and I've trialed it in just kind of random things where people came and they're like, they have these random symptoms that nobody's been able to really kind of figure out. And some of them I truly have not gotten, any therapeutic response that I was hoping, but, occasionally do. They're like, yeah, I feel much better now than what I have in the last 5 or 6 years. So we do just kind of
heck yeah, man,
throw it almost as like a Hail Mary. Again, it's safe, and if they can bring it in, and we're working on hormones and lifestyle and all that stuff as well, might as well throw it in just for a little cherry on top.
Yeah, Hashimoto's though, that's our cornerstone. We use it typically though. Hashis.
Gotcha. So I do want to now kind of switch into, I'd say, the more sexy stuff. What I want to start with is estradiol and guys. Anytime I say that like I don't block estradiol or that estradiol is beneficial in guys, those are the videos that get the most traction and views and stuff. I feel like most of these guys are still using estradiol as a scapegoat for any negative symptom associated with TRT, and they're not realizing that it has so many benefits. I see you're very active in, forums and stuff, but are you still seeing that in the patients that y'all get from other clinics and stuff, asking for aromatase inhibitors and blocking estrogen, that kind of stuff?
So yeah, exactly. I'm seeing there's this movement I'm seeing though, because I've been in this space for almost a decade now. So if you're like a patient who is coming from more of a individual clinician clinic like yourself, like Dr. Grant, those are clinician-driven clinics. The practitioner owns and operates and works there. Those patients nowadays, even the ones I've met at conferences and stuff, they're more well-informed. If they come from a franchise, an algorithm-driven clinic, and I'm not going to name names because I'm not trying to get us sued for anything, right, but if they come from an algorithm-driven clinic who has just some provider, rotating providers that's just there to collect the check, they're the ones that are on aromatase inhibitors because they hit a certain level and they still have that old-school mindset. But it's nice, though. People like you and me are trying to push the education and change the narrative that, look, dude, you don't trip out over this. You probably heard of the peptide. What is it? Sloop. People call it Sloop, S-L-U-P-P.
Yep.
You and I, we know this, but for the people listening, like the vast majority, it's not speculative, the vast majority of the benefits of TRT, at least half of them come from estradiol. Yeah.
Yep.
The insulin sensitization, glucose reduction, improved lipids, upregulation of lipid disposal, the myelination, the cardiovascular benefits, the nitric oxide production, even helping with spermatogenesis when introduced with fertility drugs. A lot of that comes from estradiol. Sloop, it works on estradiol receptors. It works like like they go estradiol related as they call it, but
Yeah.
the whole amalgamation of the benefits you get from that, the metabolic benefits, the mitochondrial upregulating benefits, is similar to that you would get from the estradiol effect from testosterone, the visceral fat reduction, the mobilization of the abdominal fat, improving fatty liver disease. All those benefits you get from SLOOP come from the estradiol effect that you would get from the TRT, increasing estradiol in the tissue. So if someone's going to say estradiol is a bad thing, like horrible for you, but they're going to pop some SLOOP, they're full of shit.
Yeah.
Because that pill kind of gives you those same benefits, man. It does. And the fact people take a capsule that augments the same benefits you get from TRT due to the estradiol just shows how freaking critical estradiol is to our health, man. Yeah. It is. That's just my 2 cents. Again, I want tangential, it does it sometimes, but.
And so like in my clinic, I'm not even checking it because we know it will be higher on testosterone. I'm checking the conversion happens in the tissues, and that's when it does. And then this is just kind of a spillover. And I mean, I view it as largely an inactive metabolite. And so I just kind of removed it. Just one, it wasn't going to affect what I did anyways, but just so I wouldn't have to have a 5 to 10 minute conversation with every guy. And, a lot of them don't even know we don't have the conversation anymore, and they don't even know because it's not there, That has kind of helped from that standpoint. And so another part of TRT, I'd say one of the hardest things to manage is fertility on testosterone. And when I say it's hard, it's just there's a lot of other nuance out there. And I get guys sometimes, they'll be like, actively trying to conceive and somebody put pellets in them and didn't have a fertility conversation. And then I'll get some from another clinic who they have all of their guys on enclomiphene or gonadorelin or kisspeptin or something. And so it's trying to weed out that, my practice is I'll get them a sperm evaluation and bank it if they plan. Good. And then I'll bring HCG in or FSH if that's not working in the future. But
Good. It works.
Does kisspeptin, enclomiphene, well, enclomiphene has some uses, I think, to my opinion, but kisspeptin or gonadorelin have any usage that you see?
No, not really. You want to have it on an infusion pump? Like, seriously, like a pain pump full of gonadorelin strapped to the back? No, you ain't gonna do that. The half-life is literally, 30 minutes or something like that? You gotta inject it 4 times a day minimally to get some kind of response? No, it's not feasible, man. It's just really not. You
posted one on the kisspeptin that you can just kisspeptin your money goodbye or something. That was a quote from you on one of the deals one time. I thought that was funny. I see their appeal in it's upstream, and if we can keep that flowing, then it should keep everything going. Just in practice, like you said, gonadorelin, it'd have to be a continuous infusion or basic, a pump, which would be awesome, but it's just not feasible.
It's not feasible, logistical, or anything, man. When we know FSH, it directly stimulates the Sertoli production. It says, all right, balls, make sperm. But if you have someone who's not going to respond to that, there's a good chance they probably weren't responding in the first place anyway. And that's a very unfortunate situation. But we don't have a crystal ball. We can't predict those people. We can't. And that's why you're doing your due diligence. You're having that fertility conversation. You're telling them, look, dude, bank sperm. It's $300 a year. Not that expensive. It's really not. If having a child is that important to you, you'll spend $300 a year to bank your sperm, and you'll have that conversation with them that, this is a possibility. But I'll say this, almost everyone we've worked with to achieve a child has achieved a child. I mean, hell, my wife and I had ours, 10 months ago, and I'm 40. It works. I've been on TRT 10 years. You go to most clinics, most physicians, most providers, prescribers, they'll all say, oh, you've been on TRT 10 years, that ain't never going to happen. I can guarantee most fertility clinics will tell me that would never happen. But it works when done appropriately. Assuming that you have the underlying mechanisms in place prior to getting on TRT that is conducive to producing healthy, viable sperm, it should, for most people, respond to these therapies.
Were you doing, if you've been on for 10 years, were you bringing in HCG once a year or anything just to wake things up, or was it kind of dormant for 10 years, just in your personal anecdote?
So my lady and I were talking about, so this was, previous year, we were talking about maybe trying for the following year. And so what we did, we introduced just some HCG, a little bit of FSH, and a month later is so much for next year. We're having it now.
Yeah, awesome.
It's happening.
Yeah.
It's all right. I thought Because I counsel most people, like, you might not even get a response for sometimes 3 to 6 months, and we had a response. But not saying that is characterized for everyone, but it was a very fortunate blessing. God blessed us, man. We were very grateful.
Do you use like carnitine or glutathione for fertility adjuncts or anything at any time?
There's some studies that support that they can help out as well, assuming that, oxidative stress, which, let's be real, as you get older, you will have oxidative stress, as we talked about earlier, the little mitochondria, boop, 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 shoot off some reactive oxygen species. That builds up in practically any cell. So it'll be one of those things like, say you got you on FSH-LH, or not FSH-LH, but LH, or FSH and HCG, and you really just want to kind of like cover your bases, you could introduce those, but we've never actually had to. But there is literature to support that they can actually work. Yeah.
Nice. Whenever I started my clinic, I honestly thought my population was going to be like 50 to 70-year-olds. But man, really, if I have 2 guys, say I have 10 guys for that day, 5 are 35-year-olds and 5 are 55-year-olds, those 55-year-olds almost all will have higher testosterone than these 35-year-olds. Is that just something that I'm seeing locally, or do you all have a similar population? Like just seeing that this, like just young guys almost being poisoned and having these low testosterones.
I would say pretty much everybody that presents to us for the most part is probably 350 and under. I'd say that regardless of age, even though most people that present to us are probably ballpark 350 or lower, it's weird that I still see that in guys that are 25, 30, and I still see that comparable to guys that are 50, 60. So, I mean, they're all pretty much low, but it's weird that it's happening that much earlier, which, again, we all have our speculations. Cadmium, heavy metals, glyphosates, the environment we're in. But it also brings up the whole spiel, like, what is a normal lab range? Well, and here's where I get a little tangential. A normal lab range, what does that reflect? It reflects a population of people. But if that whole population of people all sit on their ass 40 to 60 hours a week, watch TV 3 to 4 hours a week, don't exercise, don't get sunlight, are exposed to and just showered in fluorescent light, if that's what healthy is, then yes, that normal range reflects the healthy person. And if the healthy person is someone who's chronically exposed to environmental pollutants, heavy metals, pesticides, and has a shitty diet and shitty lifestyle, and you wonder why the range keeps changing, well, if that means you're healthy and normal, then I don't want to be healthy and normal, just to be real with you.
Right, yeah. Like even LabCorp's, I don't remember when it changed, but it was like, and now it's 260 to 916 in the last 10 years or so, and it just keeps getting lower and lower every time they reassess it.
That reflects that our society as a whole, even though we deem that healthy, is that truly healthy? No, I think that's just more of an acceptance that this is the evolution of our health decline, and that's just what we constitute as healthy, conducive or anything.
So I got trying to wrap up, but I'll ask just a couple. So you don't like these could be a full kind of conversation in themselves, but just the last hormones that we haven't. If you just briefly, do you utilize DHEA, pregnenolone, melatonin in these guys? Yeah,
when like clinically warranted, I will. Same as you. I don't do progesterone. I haven't personally ever found any need for it because 99% of the guys, thyroid will do the trick, cover the vast majority of bases. You have guys chronically having mitochondrial hypofunction. Thyroid can kick those back online real quick. But DHEA, say if you got guys who subclinical low DHEA levels, compromised immune system, sexual dysfunctions kind of lingering, DHEA can really help with those. Melatonin, believe it or not, people think it's just a sleep hormone, but no, it's actually it's a great insulin sensitization hormone. It improves your insulin levels. It helps circadian thermoregulation. In other words, if you take it at the same time of day every day, it's going to help your body get into that comfortable sleep temperature, so to speak. It'll help regulate your internal thermostat so that you can get better optimal sleep. You have to be consistent with it, though. You have to take it the same time of day, every day, be consistent with it. And a lot of times I find the clinical doses that actually get that better longevity effect, the potent anti-inflammatory effect, because the studies have shown us that it even acts like a COX inhibitor, like a cyclooxygenase inhibitor, kind of like, so look, it's great anti-inflammatory.
Right.
Usually, though, you're going to have to get higher doses, not like, half a milligram, 2 milligram. The over-the-counter doses don't really provide that. I'm finding guys are going to need 10, 15, 20 milligrams to really get better benefit from it. Seriously, like less joint pain, less inflammation chronically. That's what I'm finding. So I do employ those other hormones when needed.
Yeah. Is there anything on the horizon that you think is going to be awesome that would maybe change any of that? You know, the follistatin gene therapy, myostatin inhibitors, anything that looks promising in your eyes that may help in the future that is in the pipeline?
Nothing to know of. I'm one of those people that tries to avoid shiny object syndrome. Anytime you get online, man, that's all you get bombarded with all these the new peptides, new shit that people are trying to sell you. I'm like, look, dude, let's stick to the basics. Let's get your thyroid and your testosterone dialed in, and then let's just live a simplistic, basic lifestyle full of nutrient-dense food, is spent with having good time with your loved ones. Keep living within your tribe, living within what the foundation of our biology wants. You know, sunlight, sleep, and being happy and just being loved. If you can do those big levers, pull those big things, I don't really think you need to worry about all the biohacking bullshit. I really don't. So that's just kind of my philosophy. Avoid shiny object syndrome. I do, man. I'm trying to. Again, I'm a less is more type guy.
Yeah, I think it's even Dave Lee said it at the Silverback whenever I went and you were a speaker at. He's like, just do what your grandma wants you to do. Go out in the sun.
To sum it up, man. Yeah, dude.
Play outside, eat food that she grew from the garden, go to bed at night when it gets dark because you're too tired from playing all day. You know, it's just that alone, I think, and then you feel the love of the grandma while you're there. I think that just encompasses so much that we forget about these days. It's just so easy to overlook with everything going on.
Yeah, I'm planning on playing in the dirt with my kid, too. We're going to do that. Go back to basics, man. Just play in the dirt. Get muddy. Who cares? Let bugs bite you. You'll be fine.
I have 2 little kids, and I take them to, we call it the tadpole hole, which is, basically a big tank that, I had a bulldozer, and they just get muddy, and golly, it's one of my favorite
fun,
parts.
Man. Yeah. That's awesome, dude. That's fun.
Well, man, I very much appreciate your time. We're nearing on an hour, so I could talk to you all day. But
Damn, you guys are fast, dude.
No, I'll let you go so you can have your Friday back. But how do people get a hold of you? What do you have are y'all still taking new patients in Tennessee? And where can people follow you social media wise?
If they want to, that is. If they want to follow me, they can find me Believe it or not, I love doing TikTok. I have fun with that shit. At the Restore Clinic is our username on practically any platform.
Okay.
TikTok, Instagram. Yeah, just look for at the Restore Clinic, and you can find us, man. Yeah, you can find us. Or you just see the logo back here. Just ta-da! There you go. Yeah. Or you gotta hit up my boy Mason, man. He's a good dude. Yeah, cool.
Thanks for tuning in. It was awesome to get to talk with Justin. I've seen him speak at a couple conferences, but this was the most I've been able to actually sit down and chat with him about the wellness and hormone optimization space that he helped get me into. If you like these, let me know. If you have any other specific topics you want me to discuss about, comment below, like and subscribe for more, and we'll keep this rolling for you. Thanks.